Welcome to Goosebumps. Hey guys, and welcome back to chapters 25 and 26 of R.L. Stine's Slappy Birthday to You, the first book in the Slappy series. Now remember, pay close attention because you will have 2 questions and a sentence with fill in the blanks to do at the end. Now remember, complete sentences. Do complete sentences and we will keep them at 2 questions. Don't do your complete sentences and give me 1-word answers. We're going to go back to about 10 questions. So do your best work and sit back and let's enjoy chapters 25 and 26. Johnny made a choking sound. Vinny's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. "Did you make him say that?" Johnny cried. Vinny shook his head. No way. His eyes were still wide with fright. His mouth hung open. Both boys stared at the dummy. Slappy's eyes slid back and forth. He giggled suddenly. One of his big wooden hands swung up hard and smacked Vinny in the nose. Vinny cried out and staggered back, blinking in pain. He grabbed his nose. "Hey, you gave me a nosebleed." "I've got one too," the dummy screeched. "Look!" Slappy tilted his head back, and a thick stream of bright green goo came shooting out of his nostrils. The dummy turned his head and shot a powerful wave of goo over Vinny. Vinny tried to squirm away. Too late. The thick, lumpy liquid splashed over his head, down his face, and down the front of his shirt. "It's hot!" shrieked Vinny. "Ow! It's boiling hot!" Slappy giggled again, and keeping his head tilted back, kept spraying disgusting goo on Vinny. "It stinks!" Vinny wailed, thrashing his arms as the liquid poured over him, dropping to his knees. "And it's burning me! Help! It's burning me! Don't just stand there! Help me!" Johnny's mouth was frozen open, his pale face with horror. He took a deep breath, then dove at the dummy. Slappy ducked to the side. Johnny missed him and landed face down on the bed. Before he could move, Slappy swung a hand and clonked Johnny on the head. Johnny screamed. The dummy had hit the bump, still sore from the duck pin. Johnny grabbed his forehead as stab after stab of pain nearly blinded him. Before Johnny could move, Slappy turned his head and sent a gob of the disgusting green goo from his nose plopping over Johnny. Johnny spun on the bed and slipped onto the floor. Slappy splashed the green goo onto Johnny's back, over the back of his head. Johnny howled in pain. "Mom! Dad!" Vinny screamed, slapping at the green gunk that covered him. "Help us! Can you hear us?" "Once they're asleep, it's impossible to wake them up," his brother moaned. "Please, wake up! Wake up! We need help!" Vinny cried. Slappy tossed back his head and cackled. "Welcome to Slappy World, boys!" Chapter 26. Vinny struggled to back away. On the floor, the hot puddle of goo bubbled over his bare ankles. He tugged the sheet off his bed and used it as a towel, wiping the putrid gunk off his face, his hair, his shoulders. Johnny climbed off the bed, mopping his face with both hands. The hot gunk burned his skin. The sour odor made his stomach churn. Slappy had stopped spewing from his nostrils. Now he sat against the headboard, a grin on his painted red lips, his eyes darting from side to side. "This is impossible," Vinny cried, wiping goo from his hair. "It's just impossible."
"Know what's impossible?" Slappy rasped. "That someone with such a fat head should have such a tiny brain. Do you hear it rattling around in your skull?"
Johnny made another choking sound. "He's really talking, all by himself," he said to his brother. He's alive."
"You guys aren't exactly brilliant," the dummy shouted. "The only thing your heads are good for is to keep their hats off your shoulders. I know you failed your IQ test because you couldn't spell IQ."
"This is impossible," Vinny repeated. "A dummy can't talk on his own."
"Then what's your excuse?"
Slappy cried. He laughed his shrill, cold laugh. Johnny turned to his brother. "We never should have kidnapped him." Slappy snickered.
"You guys may not be smart, but at least you're ugly."
Vinny groaned. He took a few steps toward the bed. His eyes locked on Slappy's grinning face. He remembered how to get not to get too close. His nose still throbbed from the dummy's wooden punch. "What do you want?" Vinny demanded. "Stop the jokes."
You two are the jokes,
Slappy replied. "Just tell us what you want," Vinny cried.
I want to tell you your new names,
the dummy replied. Johnny and Vinny exchanged glances. "New names? New names?" Vinny demanded.
Your new names are Slave 1 and Slave 2.
"Are you joking?" Johnny said. The dummy leaned forward.
Are you breathing? It's hard to tell if a slug is breathing.
"You mean you think we'll be your slaves?" Vinny asked.
Let's stop wasting time, Slappy replied. You are my slaves. If you do a good job, maybe I'll give you Christmas off.
"You're crazy," Johnny cried. "You can't control us." Slappy ignored Johnny's words.
Here's your first assignment, he said. I want you to go back to Ian's house.
"Can we take you there?" Vinny asked. "Can we take you back there? It's where you belong."
You belong where you were born, Slappy snapped. Under a rock.
"We'll take you back right away," Vinny said.
Right away isn't soon enough, Slappy screamed. Now shut up and listen to your master's assignment for you. You will take me back to Ian's, and you will help me find the slip of paper.
"What slip of paper?" Johnny demanded.
The paper that has the secret words on it, dummy.
Slappy snapped.
I don't want anyone ever saying those words again. If someone reads those words again, I'll go back to sleep. I can't allow that. I'm alive! Alive! Get it, you deadheads?
Johnny and Vinny exchanged glances. "Is this really happening?" Vinny murmured.
And don't get any funny ideas about reading the words yourselves, Slappy rasped. I can have another scalding hot nosebleed on you guys, don't forget. Now let's get going.
Vinny motioned towards the bedroom door with his eyes. Johnny quickly caught on. I don't think so," Vinny said softly. "I don't think that's going to happen." "And you know what?" Johnny chimed in. "That whole slave thing, that's not going to happen either." Before Slappy could reply, Vinny burst forward and gave the dummy a hard shove with both hands. The shove sent Slappy toppling to the floor. His wooden head made a loud clunk as it bounced off the floorboards. Vinny and Johnny took off to the bedroom door. Johnny got there first. He wrapped his hand around the knob, twisted it, and pulled. "Hey!" Both boys uttered cries. Johnny tried the door again. It wouldn't budge. They turned back to Slappy, who had climbed to his feet, eyes wide, hands on the top of the bed. "The door, it's locked," Vinny stammered. Slappy snickered.
Do you think I'm a dummy? Of course it's locked. Maybe we should change your names. How about Prisoner 1 and Prisoner 2?
He took a few steps towards them. He walked in a jerky motion. His legs were light, and rubbery. His heavy shoes scraped the floor. Johnny spun away from the dummy and tried the door one more time. Vinny watched the dummy approach. His eyes were wide with disbelief. "If we find you this sheet of paper, will you leave us alone?"
Of course not, Slappy said. You are both mine now. What is it about being a slave that you don't understand?
The boys both jumped when they heard a hard knock on the door on the other side of the bedroom door. "Hey, what's going on in there?" their mom shouted from the hallway. "Mom, help us!" Johnny cried. Vinny pushed Johnny out of the way and grabbed the door handle. He twisted the knob and gave it a hard tug, so hard it made him groan. The door swung open. Miss Harding stood there, a startled look on her face. "Mom, help us!" Vinny cried. "The dummy! It's alive! It's alive!" It is alive. And we're going to have to wait till tomorrow to find out what happens in chapters 27 and 28. So do your questions with those complete sentences. And then fill in the blank. Do your best. It's always practice that makes us better. We'll see you tomorrow for chapters 27 and 28.